single dad was drinking coffee alone until three little girls whispered, "Can you be our dad?" Marcus Webb sat alone at the corner table of the Grand Harbor Hotel Cafe, watching the wedding reception unfold before him. The chandeliers cast a warm glow across the elegant ballroom, and the sound of laughter mixed with soft music filled the air. He took a slow sip of his coffee, the bitter taste matching the loneliness that had become his constant companion. At 42, Marcus had learned to navigate crowded rooms while feeling completely invisible. His younger brother's wedding should have been a joyous occasion, but instead, it reminded him of everything missing from his own life. 5 years since the divorce, 5 years of building a successful architecture firm, 5 years of telling himself that work was enough. He adjusted his navy suit jacket and looked down at his coffee cup, trying to ignore the happy couples swirling on the dance floor. That's when he noticed them. 3 little girls stood in a tight huddle about 10 feet away, their blonde heads pressed together in serious conversation. The oldest couldn't have been more than 7, her hair pulled back in an elegant updo that matched her soft pink dress. The middle child, perhaps 5, kept glancing in his direction with wide, curious eyes. The youngest, barely 4, giggled behind her tiny hands, her golden curls bouncing with each whispered exchange. Marcus found himself smiling despite his melancholy. There was something charming about their secretive plotting, the way children could find mystery and adventure in the simplest moments. Then, as if they'd reached some momentous decision, the 3 girls walked straight toward him. Marcus straightened in his chair, unsure what to expect. The eldest girl stopped just short of his table, her 2 sisters flanking her like nervous deputies. She looked at him with solemn blue eyes that seemed far too wise for her young face. "Excuse me, mister," she said in a small but determined voice. "Are you here alone?" Marcus glanced around, suddenly aware of how isolated he must appear. "Yes, I suppose I am. I'm Marcus, Uncle Marcus to the groom, actually." The 3 girls exchanged meaningful looks. Then the middle child leaned forward and whispered, though loud enough for Marcus to hear clearly, "Can you be our dad?" The question hit Marcus like a physical force. He blinked, setting down his coffee cup with trembling hands. "I'm sorry, what?" The eldest girl stepped forward, her small chin lifted with courage that must have taken everything she had. "Our mommy is over there." She pointed toward a woman in an elegant red dress standing by the bar, her back to them. "She's really sad a lot. And we don't have a daddy. We thought maybe you could be him because you look nice and you're sad too." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He looked at these 3 beautiful children, their faces open and hopeful, and saw a reflection of his own hidden longing. The youngest girl reached out and touched his hand with her tiny fingers. "You have kind eyes," she said simply. For a moment, Marcus couldn't speak. In his years of loneliness, he'd built walls so high that he'd forgotten what it felt like to be truly seen. And here were 3 children, strangers really, who had looked past the expensive suit and the practiced smile and recognized a kindred spirit. "What are your names?" he managed to ask. "I'm Sophia," said the eldest. "This is Emma, and that's little Grace." "Those are beautiful names," Marcus said, his voice gentle. "But sweethearts, you can't just ask someone to be your father. It doesn't work that way." Emma's lower lip trembled. "Why not? You're alone and we're alone. Mommy says good things happen when people help each other." "Your mother sounds very wise," Marcus replied. He found himself leaning forward, drawn into their innocent logic. But being a father is a very big responsibility. It's not something that happens just because we wish for it. "Do you have any kids?" Sophia asked, her perceptive eyes studying his face. "No," Marcus admitted, the word carrying more weight than he'd expected. "No, I don't." "Then you could have us," Grace said brightly, as if she'd solved a complex puzzle. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest, a fissure in the armor he'd so carefully constructed. These children, with their simple clarity and open hearts, were offering him something he hadn't even admitted he wanted. Not just their companionship, but permission to be needed again. "Your mother," he said carefully. "Does she know you're over here asking strange men to be your father?" 3 guilty faces looked back at him. We should probably go tell her, Sophia said, though her feet didn't move. Yes, Marcus agreed. You probably should. But none of them moved. Instead, they stood in a circle around his small table. These three little girls who'd somehow seen straight into his soul. Are you going to stay? Emma asked. At the party, I mean. I was thinking about leaving soon, Marcus said honestly. I'm not much for celebrations these days. That's sad, Grace said, climbing uninvited onto the chair next to him. Parties are supposed to make you happy. Marcus looked down at her. This tiny being who'd claimed the space beside him with such confidence. Sometimes adults forget how to be happy at parties. Then we could teach you, Sophia offered. We're really good at having fun. Despite everything, despite the absurdity and the impossibility of it all, Marcus laughed. It was a real laugh, the kind he hadn't experienced in longer than he could remember. I'm sure you are, he said. That's when he saw her approaching. The woman in the red dress moving toward them with quick, worried steps. She was striking, probably in her mid-30s, with blonde hair swept up in an elegant twist and eyes that held both beauty and deep exhaustion. Girls, she said, her voice strained with embarrassment. What have I told you about bothering people? We weren't bothering him, Mommy, Sophia said quickly. We were just talking. The woman's cheeks flushed. I am so sorry, she said to Marcus, placing protective hands on her daughter's shoulders. They're usually not this forward. I don't know what's gotten into them. Marcus stood, a gesture of respect his mother had taught him long ago. Please don't apologize. They've been absolutely delightful. The woman's eyes met his, and in that brief moment, Marcus saw something that made his breath catch. It was the same loneliness he carried, the same weariness of facing the world alone while pretending to be fine. I'm Charlotte, she said, extending her hand. Charlotte Mitchell. These are my daughters. Marcus Webb, he replied, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm despite her obvious discomfort. I'm the groom's brother. Oh, Charlotte's expression shifted slightly. Then we're practically family by marriage. My cousin is the bride. An awkward silence settled between them, while three pairs of hopeful eyes watched their every move. Mommy, Emma finally said, unable to contain herself any longer. We asked him if he could be our daddy. Charlotte's face went from pink to crimson. Emma, oh my God, I'm so sorry. They've been going through a phase where they're fixated on having a father figure. Their dad left when Grace was just a baby, and lately they've been asking more questions. Marcus watched as Charlotte tried to gather her dignity while simultaneously managing her mortification. He recognized the struggle of a parent trying to be strong while falling apart inside. Mrs. Mitchell, he said gently. It's Miss, actually, she corrected, then immediately looked embarrassed by the correction. Miss Mitchell, Marcus continued, your daughters weren't being inappropriate. They were being honest. In a room full of people wearing social masks, they had the courage to say exactly what they felt. That's not something to apologize for. That's something quite rare. Charlotte's eyes widened slightly, and Marcus saw her defenses waver. They said I looked sad, Marcus continued, a small smile playing at his lips. And they wanted to help. That speaks to how you're raising them. You do look sad, Grace piped up. But you smiled when you laughed. You should do that more. Charlotte closed her eyes briefly, clearly wishing the floor would swallow her whole. But Marcus found himself charmed by the entire situation. You know what? He said, making a decision that surprised even himself. I was about to leave this party, but your daughters have convinced me to stay a bit longer. Would you all like to join me? I haven't had much company tonight, and I think these young ladies might be right about me needing to remember how to have fun at parties. Charlotte hesitated, caught between propriety and the hopeful faces of her children. Please, Mommy, Sophia said. He's nice. We did ask him to be our daddy, Emma added, so we should at least have coffee with him. Despite herself, Charlotte laughed. It was a sound like music, bright and unexpected. All right, she said, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. But girls, you need to understand that you cannot go around asking men to be your father. That's not how life works. That's what he said too, Sophia replied matter-of-factly. But we still think it's a good idea. They settled around Marcus's table, pulling up extra chairs. Marcus ordered hot chocolate for the girls and fresh coffee for himself and Charlotte. The conversation started awkwardly. Two adults dancing around the elephant in the room, while three children chattered about everything and nothing. But gradually something shifted. Charlotte began to relax, sharing stories about her daughter's antics and the challenges of single motherhood. Marcus found himself opening up about his work, his failed marriage, and the loneliness of success without someone to share it with. The girls, having accomplished their mission of bringing the sad man and their mother together, were content to draw on napkins and whisper among themselves. "I should tell you," Charlotte said after a while, her voice softer. "They really are going through something right now. Last month, Emma came home from school crying because all her friends have dads who come to school events. Sophia has stopped talking about career day because she doesn't want anyone to ask about her father. And Grace keeps drawing pictures of families with a daddy in them." Marcus listened, his heart aching for these children and their mother. "I've tried so hard to be enough for them," Charlotte continued, her eyes glistening. "I work 2 jobs. I never miss a school play or a soccer game. I read to them every night, but I can't be both parents. I can't fill that space." "You're already more than enough," Marcus said firmly. "Any child would be lucky to have you as their mother, but I understand what you're saying. Some absences can't be filled by working harder. They just are." Charlotte looked at him with surprise and gratitude, as if no one had given her permission to acknowledge this truth before. "What about you?" she asked. "Why no children?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, watching the wedding guests dance. "My ex-wife didn't want them. She wanted freedom and adventure, and I wanted roots and family. In the end, neither of us got what we wanted. She's traveling the world alone, and I'm successful and solitary." "That must be hard," Charlotte said. "It is," Marcus admitted. "But sitting here with you and your daughters, having them see me so clearly, it's reminded me of something I'd forgotten. Life isn't over just because one chapter ended badly." Grace had fallen asleep, her head resting on Emma's shoulder. Sophia was watching the bride and groom with dreamy eyes. "We should probably get them home," Charlotte said reluctantly. "It's past their bedtime." Marcus felt a pang of disappointment but nodded. "Of course." As Charlotte began gathering her daughters, Sophia suddenly turned to Marcus. "Will we see you again?" she asked. Marcus looked at Charlotte, a question in his eyes. She bit her lip, then pulled out her phone. "I don't normally do this," she said, "but tonight has been unexpectedly wonderful. If you'd like to get coffee sometime, actually, proper coffee without the wedding chaos, here's my number." Marcus took his phone out with hands that weren't quite steady. As they exchanged numbers, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. "I'd like that very much," he said. Emma, half awake, smiled sleepily. "See? We told you he could be our daddy." Charlotte groaned, but Marcus laughed. "How about we start with friends?" he suggested. "And see where things go from there?" "That sounds perfect," Charlotte agreed. As Marcus watched them leave, Charlotte carrying Grace while the older 2 girls waved enthusiastically goodbye, he realized that something fundamental had shifted. 3 little girls had walked up to a lonely man and asked the most impossible question, and in doing so, had opened a door he'd thought was closed forever. He sat back down at his table, but the loneliness was gone. Instead, there was possibility. There was the promise of a phone call, of coffee, of slowly building something real and lasting. Marcus picked up his phone and typed a message. "Thank you for staying. Tonight reminded me that the best things in life come from unexpected moments." Charlotte's reply came quickly. "Thank you for seeing my girls, truly seeing them, and for being kind when you didn't have to be." Then another message. "They're asking if Uncle Marcus will come to Emma's birthday party next month." Marcus smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Uncle Marcus would be honored," he typed back. As he finally left the wedding reception, Marcus realized that sometimes the family we need finds us in the most surprising ways. 3 little girls had whispered a question that changed everything, and in doing so, had given a lonely man and an overwhelmed mother permission to hope again. The path ahead wouldn't be simple. Building trust takes time. Blending lives requires patience. But for the first time in 5 years, Marcus wasn't walking alone into an uncertain future. He was walking towards something beautiful, Something real, something worth every careful step. And it all began with 3 little girls who had the courage to ask, "Can you be our dad?" If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment below telling us about a time when an unexpected moment changed your life. Your story might inspire someone else who needs to hear it.